It is possible to use a smartphone running an operating system other than Google's Android or Apple's iOS, but the likelihood that you're doing so is infinitesimal. Like it or not, for the present, we're locked in a duopoly when it comes to mobile operating system choice. Much of your choice of smartphone OS, however, doesn't concern the software's technical capabilities or user features. It's likely that you simply use what your social and family circles are using. If everyone you know uses Apple's FaceTime for video calling, you don't want to be left out of the party, and you would want your messages to have green bubbles instead of the standard blue ones. Of course, there are cross-platform options for most functions. You could install Skype or Google Hangouts on both iPhones and Androids, but built-in functionality and consistency usually trump third-party options. Interface and usability. It's still fair to say that Android tends to present more complexity, more burrowing down menus to get to the setting you need, multiple home screens, and more variation among different phone model interfaces. With iOS, because of Apple's famed love of limiting users to its way or the highway, interface layout and settings are more consistent and uncomplicated. Technology support. New wireless tech standards appear every year like the spring bird migration, and in the last few years, Android has been first to welcome these new specs, almost always preceding their iOS support. Android is the first with 5G network support. Previously, it beat Apple with support for wireless charging, 4G LTE, and touchless voice commands. That said, Apple tends to wait until the new technology is useful and reliable. For example, 5G service and promised speeds still aren't ubiquitous. Yes, you can buy a handset that connects to 5G, but can you find any 5G service to connect it to? Included apps. Apple and Google both supply you with plenty of stock apps that appear on your phone from the moment you first power it up. You'll see apps for email, web browsing, photo viewing and editing, audio playing and recording, video playing, document and spreadsheet editing, and more. Both include apps that you cannot uninstall even if you wanted to, but both let you replace stock apps with third-party options. One oversight on the Android side is the lack of a task or to-do app. iOS Reminders app is slick as can be for this. Google does get partial credit, however, since the Keep app is offered as an extra download at initial setup and does a good job with to-do lists. Availability and fragmentation. If you buy an iPhone, you can be assured that it will receive the latest iOS updates for at least several years. Android is getting better in terms of updates becoming more widespread, particularly with its Android One initiative. But it's still far behind iOS on this count. Neither company's developer site yet reveals market share of the just released versions Android 11 and iOS 14, but Android 10 runs on less than 10% of devices, whereas iOS 13 is on 81% of iPhones and 92% of devices purchased within the past 4 years. iOS update adoption is an actual order of magnitude greater than that of Android. Security and privacy. Both mobile operating systems have decent records and safeguards when it comes to security, but Android, being more open, has more vectors for malware to enter your phone. In particular, apps are more prone to bring trouble in Android, especially if you install from an alternative app store. Reports of vulnerabilities and attacks have become a regular occurrence. As Android headlines show, event-bot Android malware steals your banking details. A wallpaper can crash some Android 10 phones. New Android flaw can help malware impersonate apps and take your data, and Android users need to manually remove these 17 infected apps. Integration with desktop and other devices. Apple's continuity features are hard to beat, but thanks to Windows 10's Your Phone app, Android can now connect with PC just as effectively as iPhones connects with Macs. That even includes making calls, and when Windows 10 22 launches, running apps. Those capabilities depend on your phone model, with Samsung units getting preference. Of course, maybe we shouldn't give Android full points for Microsoft's work, but one convenient Google feature that Android enables is SMS messaging via the web. Voice Assistant. Apple Siri and Google Assistant both let you do things with your voice on the phone. Both are easy to invoke and offer a wake word, always listening option. Gaming, VR, and AR. Apple and Google have both put efforts into games and enabling VR and AR technologies in their mobile operating systems. Both offer large libraries of casual and near console-level games, and both now let users subscribe to a selection of games as opposed to having to buy each separately. Apple's Arcade and Android's Google Play Pass both cost an identical $4.99 per month. Accessibility. Both OS makers have been working on adding features that help people with disabilities use their phones. Android has a live transcribe feature that allows people who are deaf to read what's being said on the spot. It also offers talk back to speak what's on the screen, look out to tell you what's in view, and voice access for controlling your phone. It also supports external switches and lets you reprogram phone buttons. Overview: as you can see, this is a very close race, with just as many ties as wins for either side. Apple iOS comes out on top but by the slimmest of margins. The near parity is hardly surprising when you consider how the two platforms have been matching features and polishing their interfaces for years. Despite this near parity, our review rating has Android with a lower score because such a small percentage of Android users can actually run the latest version, and because Apple generally does a more polished and consistent job of implementing the same features. Not all of the categories above receive equal weight. In other words, both OSes can serve you remarkably well. In the end, your decision will likely have as much to do with your social and work circles than with the mobile operating system's features. We are going to end this video right away. If you have any query or information to share, please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.